I would rather die a free man, shot through my heart, on my feet, than live like a slave on my knees for the rest of my life. I'm 70 years old. I'm done being a slave for anybody.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Ottawa. And folks, before I get to our story, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com, journalistdefensefund.com. You know we love to bring you the other side of the story, but there are forces afoot that don't want that to happen, and we need security sometimes. But not here, because the reason I'm here on Parliament Hill, folks, is that there is a freedom rally going on by patriots, or I guess as Doug Ford would call them, a bunch of yahoos. Geez, I wonder what Justin Trudeau would call these people. Anyways, they are here to voice their displeasure with the Trudeau Liberal government. Let's wade into the crowd and see what they have to say.
Freedom, 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 freedom.
Sir, you are all the way from British Columbia. What brings you to the steps of Parliament Hill?
Well, I'm an Indian-born Canadian in British Columbia. Canada is losing her identity, her sovereignty. People are losing their liberty and freedom. I do not believe I have seen this level of crisis any time in my life. And I believe it is not so much the fault of Trudeau or any politician. It is the fault of us, the people, for allowing the politicians to hijack democracy. Their job is to protect the interest of the people. It is our job to hold the politicians' feet to the fire. That's why I came here to protest. I have a very simple statement for Trudeau, because I was told that Trudeau cannot handle complicated sentences. He only likes simple sentences. I am borrowing Patrick Henry of 1775. Give me liberty or give me death. I would rather die a free man, shot through my heart, on my feet, than live like a slave on my knees for the rest of my life. I'm 70 years old. I'm done being a slave for anybody.
You know what? I'm with Zach. He is a fourth-year journalism student at Carleton University.
We are being taught to follow authority, not to think on our own, regardless of expert opinions, and that the expert opinions we are to get are they have to fit our narrative. So what's happened with journalism over time, at least in my experience now, is that instead of finding stories, we're developing our own narratives, we're developing our own stories, and then we're finding whomever we can to back those up. And they are never in the cause of truth.
Sir, you're all the way from Quebec. What brings you out to this freedom rally today?
Me just to say all Canadians that the Quebecers are with them. We are the part of Canada, so we want to show that Quebec exists for us, by us. You know, my people want their freedom, and they're gonna fight to keep freedom. Okay?
Right. Let's talk about what's on your T-shirt. This is a man who proclaims he's a feminist, and he gropes women. He seems to have a problem with women that are self-determinant, like Jody Wilson-Raybould.
Yeah, he fired her from the caucus, and that was the issue over Lavalin. That's why we're all here today, is because obviously the man is corrupt. He abused. I have 3 daughters. I was telling my daughters about this, because of course they grew up in school as being a little bit snowflakey, and after a while they've started to see the light and they understand what's going on now. So I taught them about him being in BC at school. I taught them about the Groper scenario, which is why I have the T-shirt. We talked about Jody Wilson. In other words, the bottom line here is this man, he likes equality of outcome, but he's not into equality.
Doug Ford, of course, calls people like you two and everybody else here a bunch of yahoos. I wonder what Justin Trudeau's word would be for you guys if you're yahoos in the eyes of Doug Ford.
If we were preaching anti-racism, Justin Trudeau would be taking selfies with everybody here, and we'd be called patriots and wonderful Canadians. But as soon as you question any one of the government narratives that's anti-people and against the people, all of a sudden you're yahoos or anything else the media wants to brand you. At least they can't brand us as racists anymore.
I mean, the narrative we have right now are the hospitals are war zones thanks to the Wuhan virus. and when in fact they're more than half empty. And there are people dying on elective surgery lists. Was this the case with Jerry Dunham?
Yes, this was the case, unfortunately, with Jerry Dunham. 46 years old, a young man, and all he needed to sustain him was a pacemaker. A pacemaker surgery, which is a very basic surgery, which was considered, for him, it was life's essential. Basic in the sense that it wasn't a complicated surgery, but they considered it non-essential.
And so it was a routine procedure.
He died 2 weeks before Father's Day, and he knew he was going to die. And they did not accommodate this man for a surgery that would have definitely saved his life. And the interesting thing is, the nurse wanted to know from his wife that should they label it a COVID death.
Now, that you touched upon another amazing thing.
Really? And she, of course, said no. He died from the ridiculous policies of COVID-19, not from the virus.
The COVID's going to be past and gone, and they're going to still be dumping billions of dollars in a program for viruses that, what are we going to do this every year? Are we going to do this every year for every flu virus that comes along?
What the governments across Canada are doing is an infringement on liberty. I mean, they are destroying people's livelihood. People are going bankrupt. They're losing their business. What we're seeing in a lot of ways is one of the largest wealth transfers from the working class to the elites and the people that are connected to the elites, the oligarchs. At the same time that the central bank is printing up all this money and bailing out banks, bailing out corporations.
What's your opinion of the official opposition here in Ottawa?
What official opposition? I haven't heard of any pushback. There's been no substantive peeps or noises about this lockdown at all, and the lives being ruined. It's unbelievable to me.
And nobody else said nothing in the opposition, which means what? They're all the same, corrupted, all of them.
The worst part about it is that it's not even our elected officials that are ruling right now that are making the laws. It's basically they're appointing decisional powers to the health experts and the health ministries and everything, and it's been demonstrated that these people operate and work for the World Health Organization simultaneously as they're in the Canadian government. I mean, the conflict of interest is apparent, and it's obvious.
We know that 82% of the deaths from the Wuhan virus have been at long-term care facilities. People who are young, people who are healthy, you have a 6 times higher chance getting killed by a car crossing Wellington Street. Maybe we should have directed our resources at the vulnerable as opposed to shutting down the entire economy.
Well, absolutely. And, I've been lucky enough to be considered an essential worker. My day job is I'm a firefighter paramedic. I take on risks by running into burning buildings and going to car wrecks and going to COVID positive patients. If I'm allowed to take that risk to earn my livelihood, other Canadians should be. Their livelihood's no less important than mine.
Still, we are, this current point, still living in a democracy, are we not?
You would think so. Well, you would think so, but it doesn't seem like it when he just comes out every 15 minutes out of his cottage and says what he's going to implement without any parliamentary debate, without any vote whatsoever. Andrew Scheer, even though I don't really agree with Andrew Scheer either, but he's right, saying that Parliament is part of our democracy and it needs to function. And he's just taken that out.
But something you just said there about Mr. Scheer, that's the other problem, isn't it, sir, that what is the alternative? Whenever this election's going to be called, and whoever the leader of the Conservative Party is with the 4 front runners we have, is there any hope of a regime change here?
When I look at the leadership, especially Peter MacKay, if Peter MacKay becomes the leader of the Conservative Party, you might as well just keep Justin Trudeau in power, because it's the same thing. I really don't have, especially, I voted for Doug Ford, and he's a big disappointment. He's acting like your typical politician as well. So I'm losing faith in anyone who's in politics these days.
Now, on the flip side, you don't like the Trudeau Liberals, obviously. Do we have any champion when it comes to the official opposition?
Absolutely not. Maybe if Sloan gets in for the leadership, I think Sloan would make the best CPC leader over O'Toole. I don't really like him. And MacKay, well, he's a socialist.
What has been this regime's biggest failure in terms of serving the Canadian public, sir?
Well, that's a big question. But if I was...
And we don't have all day, right?
Yeah, but if I was to say
Justin hasn't done anything to pull Canadians together. His globalist agenda is affecting everybody. As you can see with the crowd, there's hardly anybody wearing masks. It's a hot, beautiful day. We have a large Quebec contingent here today, and it's been a peaceful protest so far.
You know what, sir? It's interesting you mentioned that about the mask, because there was a press release that went out that Ottawa bylaw was going to be making enhanced patrols on this day to make sure everybody was practicing social distancing and whatnot. Do you see any likelihood of a bylaw issuing those $880 tickets here today?
I can't see that happening, but I have talked to our men in blue, and they are very polite and very cooperative, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. They're in the background. You can see them at different points, but honestly, I don't see any hint of any kind of disturbance here today. Everybody's just happy. It's Canada Day, and Justin can shut down the parade, but Canadians are still going to come.
If you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com, journalistdefensefund.com. You know we love to bring you the other side of the story, but there are forces afoot that don't want that to happen, and we need security sometimes.